I'm Jeff Matlow. Welcome to the best leadership podcast ever. Welcome back to the pod, the most fun way to learn life's leadership lessons. And speaking of fun ways to learn life's leadership lessons, go to thebestleadershipnewsletter.com and subscribe. You are going to love it. It'll make you think, it'll make you smile, maybe it'll even make you snort with laughter. Who knows? And today, I want to talk to you about the 4 leaders who fail. But it starts with a well. And as it turns out, you own this well. And it's one of those old school stone wells with the crank handle and the bucket. Can you picture it? Picture it sitting in the middle of this lush green field, probably somewhere in Ireland, because why not? Let's also imagine you've got a herd of sheep. And like anybody who has a well and some sheep, you want your sheep to be happy and productive because that's your job. As it turns out, the sheep need water to be happy and productive. Thank God you have a well. Any questions so far? Great. Because now we're going to talk about how to embrace growth. And there are 4 different types of leaders that we're going to discuss, and we'll look at how each of them uses the well water to feed their sheep. And if you want to be a leader that embraces growth, which, by the way, you do, it's really important for you to understand these 4 archetypes, so pay close attention. The first scenario involves the undecider. The undecider goes up the hill to fetch a pail of water. As the undecider nears the well, they begin to wonder if the well water is healthy for the sheep. They tell themselves that maybe they need more research before risking the sheep's well-being with that well water. So they turn around and go home. They don't get the water, and they don't do the research, and the sheep remain thirsty. All of this is because the undecider has a hard time making decisions that involve risk. Instead, they just avoid decision-making. Sound like anybody you know? The next scenario involves the invalidator. The invalidator goes to the well. When they get there, they lower the bucket, raise it back up, and confidently walk the bucket down to the sheep pasture. Once they get to the pasture, they realize that, surprise, surprise, there's no water in the bucket. Maybe they didn't lower the bucket enough. Maybe the well is dry. Or maybe there's a hole in the bucket, dear Eliza, dear Liza. This is the problem with the invalidator. Though they aren't scared of making decisions, they don't bother to validate whether their choices will actually achieve the ultimate goal. Instead, they act impulsively and then wonder why it didn't work. And that's not good. The next scenario involves the shortcutter. The shortcutter hurries to the well and notices that the bucket is already a quarter full. They're in a rush and have a busy day, so they unhook the bucket and hustle over to the sheep pasture. But that's not nearly enough water for the sheep. But hey, the shortcutter is busy, so they decide to just leave the empty bucket on the ground in the pasture. The next rain's going to fill it up, right? Therein lies the problem with the shortcutter. They just want to get things done and get it done quickly. They never think of creating efficient and scalable processes, and the result is chaos. The last scenario involves the ball dropper. The ball dropper confidently strides to the well and lowers the bucket. It fills up with water, and they raise the bucket back up. The ball dropper at this point is pretty darn proud of themselves. They pat themselves on the back for doing a job well done, and then they walk away, leaving that full bucket of water sitting at the well and the sheep wondering what the hell is going on with all these crazy people. That's the problem with the ball dropper. They begin tasks and never finish them. They never hold themselves or other people accountable. In the end, the ball dropper is probably just going to blame the sheep for being thirsty anyway. So what does this all mean? I'm glad you asked. The bucket of water represents the inspiration to grow and to be productive. The sheep are the employees who are thirsty for that inspiration. It's the leader's job to grow the business. However, There are 4 bad leadership habits that destroy the ability to effectively grow. They each result in uninspired employees. The 4 bad leadership habits are poor decision-making, which is the undecider, failure to validate new concepts, which is the invalidator, inability to create scalable processes, which is the shortcutter, and lack of accountability, which is the ball dropper. Again, poor decision-making, failure to validate new concepts, inability to create scalable processes, and lack of accountability. As you listen through those 4 things, I'm sure you can think of people you know who fall victim to each of the habits, right? I mean, after all, almost every leader has a weakness in at least one of those habits. I see it all the time in my leadership coaching practice. And having that weakness is okay. I mean, it's okay as long as you acknowledge your shortcomings and make up for it. The problem is when a leader fails to acknowledge and address their challenges. It's a big problem, big enough for the employees to scramble to greener pastures, if we're going to keep the whole sheep metaphor. Many leaders don't even realize that they're the bottleneck for growth. Here's a few typical scenarios. They may blame the staff for not moving fast enough, but they're the ones holding up decisions. Or they may be overloaded with to-dos, but feel like they can't delegate because nobody can do it as well as them. Or they may get frustrated that deadlines are continually missed, yet they never hold themselves or anybody else accountable. All of these are a problem. So tell me, which of the habits are your weakness? What about your boss's weaknesses? It's critical for leaders to continually self-reflect. You need to recognize your tendencies, which ones are energizing the employees and which ones are demotivating them. To put it in a positive perspective, the leader who's embracing growth is one who is an efficient decision maker, who validates concepts before acting impulsively, who creates scalable processes, and who holds themselves and their team accountable. So now's the time to take a good look at yourself. Hold up the mirror. Are you the leader who can't make risky decisions? Maybe you continually act impulsively? Are you terrible at creating processes? Or do you suck at holding yourself and others accountable? If you want some advice, feel free to drop me a line, leadership@bytitleonly.com. It's what I do in my coaching practice. And if this resonates you, go to thebestleadershipnewsletter.com. Join the tens of thousands of people who subscribe to that. You can also join the Best Leadership community there if you're ready to get on the path to promotion. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to talk to you next week. Have a great one. Bye.